how often have you seen, or has that happened where you reach a point where it's just the personality that is not able to adapt to a new way of thinking? So, for example, we can generalize it to like two famous people, like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, right?
Yeah.
Two Steves. You can take a Steve Jobs type, and through skill, perhaps that person can become a Steve Wozniak in terms of the skill level of the kind of coding and coding mind he has. But can a Steve Wozniak become a Steve Jobs in the way of his thinking and the way of his true design thinking, or is personality, or does the personality limit their learning?
Okay, I think that's the $1,000,000 question, and I think there are reams that have been written and published about what makes somebody creative.
Yeah,
I think that's it. I mean, is it the wiring of the brain? Is it the way we are genetically built? Okay, or is it something that you can learn? I think that's finally what it boils down to. And I think here, people like Edward de Bono and a lot of people like Clayton Christensen and all have done some enormously good work.
yeah,
Where I think and this comes up in most of my creativity, innovation, design classes. This conversation that can I be trained to become a better innovator or creative person? So here's the thing. I keep giving this example that if what Edward de Bono talked about is that creative thinking is not an inborn talent. It's a skill that you can develop, like swimming or driving or cooking, with practice.
Yeah.
So Clayton Christensen, in his book Innovator's DNA, actually did something very interesting. He studied, I think, 35 of the world's most innovative CEOs, Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and Pierre Omidyar and Ratan Tata and Michael Dell and a whole bunch of them.
Right.
And he realized that there is, of course, something which is, they're very smart people. They're born smart. They're wired differently, maybe is one way of putting it. But there are also some actions and behaviors that they demonstrate regularly. They partake in regularly, which are things that you and I can also do and become better at being better problem solvers or innovators.
Right.
So Christensen actually talked about 5 such behaviors. He talked about them as, if I recall correctly, observing, which is observing your environment and looking for things that are going right or wrong and figuring out what to do about it. Questioning. Just Michael Dell, I think, used to say that there are only 3 questions: why not, and what if. If you start questioning everything on those lines, you start getting new ideas. Then associating, connecting the dots, essentially. Looking at something, looking at the disconnected and see that if I can learn something from here and apply it there.
Yeah.
People recently on Facebook, there was this video about an ant colony or ants marching in a certain way and never having a traffic jam. And then people asking, what can we learn from ants to improve our traffic system, or Gurgaon, let's say.
Yeah.
Then comes your experimenting. You can be a thinker all your life, but if you're not prototyping, if you're not showing what you're doing to people, it's of no use.
Yeah.
So be fearless when it comes to that. And the final one is networking. Talking to people from different backgrounds, doing different things to get different perspectives.
Right.
So now, if I go back to your earlier question, there are people who are probably more open-minded in terms of attitude to try new things, try different things. But across the board, people are facing the challenge that if they are not innovative, they become redundant.
Yeah.
Tomorrow they have a huger challenge. So everybody is being pushed to demonstrate greater creativity and do things more differently.
Right.
Those who are able, because of the way they are built, to do it faster will become that. But for others, it's not the end of the road, or it's not hopeless. It's not to say that, I have no creativity or I'm not creative, which I hear a lot. Because creativity is not your ability to paint or write a story or do something like that. Creativity is the ability to figure out better ways of solving problems. That's how I call it.
Yeah.
And there, if we learn these 5 things or whatever it is, there are so many other theories involved. Available. All of us can get better at it. And I'm very passionate about this because for the last 8 years, our entire business has depended on this.
Right.
Because if we had to only depend on people who have got innate creativity or inborn creativity, we would be out of work.
Right.
It works because everybody, even those who are the most sorry to put it bluntly, stuck up and believe that they are absolutely non-creative,
Yeah.
if they're pushed and given the right stimulus, surprise you.
Yeah.
And this is in Laksha in 100% of our programs. I keep saying to every program where I start with painting, saying 99% of my participants can't paint and resist painting.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, 100% of them do.
Right.
And once we get them started, it's difficult to stop at times.
Right.
They get emotional, they get attached to it. So many things come out. They demonstrate behaviors. They fight with each other because all of our work, painting stuff are done in groups.
Right.
There are negotiations, execution, games. You see a lot of behaviors being demonstrated just over 2 hours of painting.
Yeah.
Which is what we link to our learning objectives as to why you did what you did. What did you learn from that behavior? So I think linking these two up, I think yes, attitude is important, but it's also something that can change. But yes, people need to invest in it. Companies need to back them on that investment.
Right.
I think that's a big one because I might be ready to, but if my boss doesn't support me or my organization doesn't say that you need to think differently, I have very little incentive to pursue my, or continue on that path.